Welcome to School Scene. I'm Dan Bridges, Superintendent of Naperville Community Unit School District 203, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Karen Sullivan, Superintendent of Indian Prairie School District 204. Together, our districts educate 46,000 students in 55 schools across Naperville in areas of Aurora, Bolingbrook, Lisle, Plainfield, and Woodridge. Our mutual goal is to ensure each student receives a first-class education and leaves our districts well prepared for their next phase of life, whatever that may be. That goal is demonstrated through the services we provide from our littlest learners through our postgraduates. Our youngest students can be found in brightly colored classrooms at both Ann Reed Early Childhood Center and Prairie Children Preschool. We're joined by Principals Tara Allen and Sally Osborne. Sally, some people in our community may be a little surprised to know that both school districts offer early childhood education programs. Can you tell us a little bit about your program?
Yes, we have a fairly large program. We serve about 600 students through tuition-based programming, as well as we have children who attend through a state grant for families who qualify for that. Because we're part of the public school district, we also serve children that have been identified with disabilities. So we have children with special needs in our programs as well. We have 24 classrooms on site, and then we have 3 classrooms off site in our elementary buildings as well. So we're fairly large and growing every day.
Great. Tell us about Ann Reed.
Ann Reed has a very similar makeup of those 3 programs. We have a slightly smaller, about 450 children are serviced by the programs in our building, but we also have a 0 to 3 program that services families of young children from infant to age 3 who have at-risk characteristics. So our parent mentors and educators go into the home and actually help the children and the parents with the early stages of child development. So yeah, we're glad to have that 0 to 5 spectrum serviced in our building.
There's a great deal of research about the importance of early childhood education, which is why both districts are certainly committed to this. So can you talk a little bit about what developmentally is happening during those years?
A lot is happening in those years. So we really are trying to think 0 to 5 as far as the importance. The research shows us over and over that those 0 to 5 years are really critical, that there's a range of services for families and for children. But what they're focusing on in our building, in the programs in our building, are really everything. So not just language and cognitive and academic skills, but social emotional functioning, independence, doing things that are, those higher level skills. But definitely our focus is making sure our goal is that every child is ready for kindergarten and has what they need to be successful in our kindergarten programs.
But in terms of research, there's a lot of research out there about early childhood education and outcomes, and some of the research is very positive in terms of looking at long-term outcomes, in terms of students who attend an early childhood program. As adults, they're more likely to make more money at their job, they're more likely to own their own home, they're less likely to be involved in law enforcement. So there really have been some nice studies coming out about the effects of early childhood education.
Terry, you talked a little bit about some of the skills that you're seeing of the children and what's happening with them developmentally at that age. What do we hope to develop? What do we hope to see as students exit our early childhood programs and into kindergarten and into our elementary schools? What is it we're hoping to develop and hope to see out of our children when they enter?
Well, along with the pre-academic skills of like math and literacy, I think that we're really looking at the social emotional skills. So we're looking at children understanding their feelings, understanding that other people have feelings, sharing, taking turns. They're learning to become independent, like in their self-help skills, as well as independent from their family. So we're really looking at lots of different things as they're moving through preschool, not just the academics.
The transition process is really important. Research talks about that transition, that first transition to school, that transition to kindergarten needs to be very, very important. It's positive for the children. So we think about that they have those abilities to self-regulate and problem solve. So we sometimes do a little self-sabotage in the classroom where we set up complicated things for them and they have to maneuver, they have to ask for help, they have to think flexibly about different solutions. That better prepares them for the kindergarten.
Part of the early child education process may be a developmental screening. Can you talk a little bit about that process and the kinds of services a student might receive?
We really try to make it easy for the families to access the services. When in doubt, call the preschool. So for both of our programs, we run very similar screening. We screen 12 months out of the year. It's a fluid process. It's not a set date. Parents pick up the call. Our staff sends out questionnaires and information packets right away. They can come and pick it up at the office. We look at the full range of development, the language abilities, cognitive abilities, pre-academics, motor, physical development, as well. It's social emotional is a big piece as well. So really anything, any concern a parent might have about their child's development in any area, better to be safe and call and have a screening. We have lots of children that pass our screening and the parents just had a question and a little bit of a worry, and we hope to maybe share some education with them, maybe give them some resources that could help them, even if they don't come to our building for services.
Yeah, we have a very similar screening process in that parents just have to contact the preschool if they have concerns about their child, and that's when the screening process starts. 12 months out of the year, we're screening kids.
Great. So our community is blessed not only to be served by two amazing school districts, but by a number of private early childhood centers and preschools. Talk a little bit about the advantage of a child attending preschool or the early childhood center in the school district that they're going to attend.
Well, I think there are several advantages. I think one of the big ones is certification of our teachers. All our teachers have a professional educator license with an endorsement in early childhood education, endorsement in early childhood special education, as well as many have an endorsement in English as a second language. So I think that's a big plus when you're looking at attending a public preschool. Additionally, I think we can really offer a lot of resources that sometimes those private preschools can't, in terms of we have highly qualified paraprofessionals, we have technology that we have in our classrooms. Every classroom has an iPad, we have a smart board. Also, our teachers, because we're in our district, are able to access the professional development that's going on in our very large district. And then I think that collaboration piece with the elementary school is huge.
I think our families talk a lot about, we have all these wonderful therapists in our building because we do provide services for children with special needs. I have 10 speech and language pathologists in my building. They work on language circles and vocabulary development and that higher level thinking, questioning with all the kids in the classroom, not just those that are on their caseload. So because it is that team approach of delivering services to children, we have that expertise of many, many different disciplines in the classrooms, and we really believe in a full inclusion, sort of a push-in model into the classroom. So you'll walk into a classroom sometimes when Dan visits, he'll see 4 or 5 adults in the classroom because there's a lot of collaboration and co-teaching going on for all kids.
You mentioned a little bit about that transition to kindergarten, but can you talk about how that is an advantage in terms of being within the school district?
We've worked really hard. It's our 7th year open as a new school, 203's newest school. We've worked hard to align what we are doing with the kindergarten, especially now that it's an all-day kindergarten program. We continue to do visits and work with that transition process with our 14 kindergarten buildings. But we make changes every year. Things change, and we get better each year at tweaking what we do so the children are better prepared. We also get a lot of feedback from our kindergarten teams on how our kids did and what more we can do to prepare them and what the focus should be this year, and in that individualized piece. So we know our kindergarten, so we have kids who may have unique needs. At high end of the spectrum and also having some of those significant special needs, we can tailor what they need and set it up for them so it's ready when they get to the kindergarten because of that communication.
Yeah, I think the opportunities for our teachers, preschool teachers, to collaborate and work with the receiving kindergarten teams and share those strengths and share those challenges, as well as share strategies, so that the kindergarten team is not starting from scratch.
So the role of the parent at any level of education is so important. So for our parents who are watching, what advice or recommendations would you give to them in supporting early childhood education at home?
Read to your child. Yeah, I would say the more words that your child is hearing on a daily basis, the better it will be. Read. I always focus on that literacy.
Absolutely, but math is also very important. So we encourage our parents to find those natural opportunities to point out in your environment, in your home, when you go out and about, ways to, opportunities to count and notice and talk about rich vocabulary and those concepts, and exposing them to that just in natural ways, but getting out and about and exploring new parts of the community, parks. These are things that many are free. We just encourage parents to get the children out and be talking to them, so exposing them to that language and finding opportunities for math and natural academics as they occur.
So if I'm a parent and I just have a question about my child's development, I'm just not sure, what do I do?
When in doubt, call us. Our staff are wonderful. We get many phone calls like this, and it's never a problem too little to come and get an opinion from one of our certified staff members on how your child is doing developmentally.
Yeah, we always encourage parents to call and ask questions. Everybody is available in the preschool to answer parents' questions.
We hope to be a community resource, not just a program, but a place where families could come and get information or referrals or just good information on parenting. So not just a service and a program for their children.
So speaking of community resources, we know in our school districts, in order to be successful, we depend on collaboration and partnership with the community. Tell us a little bit about how you take advantage or leverage partnerships throughout the greater community to support your programming.
I think we work with community partnerships to bring things to our school that we might not otherwise be able to. So we've worked with DuPage Children's Museum to bring in activities that way. We've worked with the Smile Squad to bring in dental screenings for students. There's a lot of different partnerships that we have that we're able to then bring in whatever the service they have to our school to provide that to our students.
Yeah. We do the exact same 2 partnerships. We also have Lions Club that comes in and does free developmental vision screenings for all of our children who are at risk financially to get them ready for all of those medical things before kindergarten. But we also partner with our libraries, Naperville Library and the Lyle Library. We're piloting, this is our 2nd year of piloting an adult ESL class with the Lyle Library, where parents of art and read students who want to learn English as a second language themselves go to the Lyle Library. Our staff provide babysitting and a developmental activity for the children at the library, and with an adult educator working with the parents. So that program has blossomed from a small partnership into, I think there's 25 families engaged in the ESL classes right now from our building. So it's a small scale, but it's a start. There's a lot more I think we could do in accessing our community partnerships. I think that's the next phase of where we want to be in the next couple of years, is to explore and expand those partnerships so we can reach more families and offer more services to our parents in the community.
And you didn't mention it, but I think just recently both districts collaborated on a resource fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a resource fair at Prairie Children Preschool in 204 every year. We're doing, I think this was our 8th year, if not our 9th year, and we switch places where we do it. We had 50 plus vendors. It was very well attended.
Yes.
There were so many resources there, and parents left with a lot of information that they could use for their child and their family as well. Very well attended.
Yeah, and we'll be hosting the fair next September.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about an exciting initiative or something that's happening in your building or in your early childhood center right now, or maybe coming soon, that gets you really excited about.
I think what gets me real excited is the technology piece. Again, I think I said this already, all our classrooms have iPads, all our classrooms now have smart boards. I think using technology for instruction is kind of a new thing for early childhood, and so I'm really excited about that, to see where that's going to go.
In our building, we have seen a significant change in our enrollment and demographics over the last 7 or 8 years. Well, it's 7th year in our building, but we have 30 languages spoken by families in our building. We are one of the most diverse schools in Naperville. So our work has really been centered around culturally responsive practices. And we have some exciting things we're doing this year as far as use of interpreters, getting parent groups together, and really focusing on bringing that first language into the classrooms. We have 2 Spanish bilingual classrooms, but those other 30 languages, finding ways to bring and honor their culture and language into our English classrooms has been something that I'm really excited about this year so far. Some of the things we've put in place operationally as far as how we group students in classes, and how we're using interpreters for parent nights, and getting families together from like cultures who speak like home languages has been really rewarding and really positive feedback so far.
Thanks, Tara and Sally. When we return, Dan and I will discuss how we prepare our oldest students for life after graduation.
Welcome back to School Scene. Some of our students need a little extra assistance transitioning into adulthood. We're joined now by 204's Libby Jansen, Assistant Director of Student Services, and 203's Maura Anderson, Supervisor of Transition Services at Connections. Tell us a little bit about the transition program, what it is, and who are the students that it educates and supports.
STEPS is our transition program. So it's for students ages 18 to 21 who are special needs students. They have IEPs. And it's really meant to bridge that gap in between the public schools and adult life. So we work really closely with families to work on making a plan for their post-secondary outcomes. And by that, you know, there's 3 specific areas that we look at when we look at post-secondary outcomes. And it's employment, training, and independent living skills. And so those are the 3 areas that we focus on. It begins in high school. And the high school teams will begin to work with the families, work with the students, and decide that these children need extra support in reaching those goals.
The other piece too is our programs really are a synthesis of our students' experiences in both of our districts. So we're really looking to reinforce and maintain that core academic foundation that our students come to us with, and then also help to build on their independent living and their community navigation skills, and then give them additional vocational training supports. And so like Libby said, we're really serving as that bridge to adult services, because we want our students and families to have a very successful transition to adulthood.
So you mentioned some of the skills. Let's talk a little bit more about the life skills that we hope those students learn in both of your programs. What are some of those skills more specifically?
Well, we're looking at their independent living skills. So we want our students to be able to live as independently as possible in whatever housing the family chooses. So if they're going to be continuing to live in the home, or if they're possibly going to be looking at a group home, or looking at a SILA, which is a community integrated living arrangement, or if they're going to be living with peers in an apartment, we want them to be as independent as they can be. And with that, we have students who work with personal support workers. So we talk to them about hiring. How do you hire your own PSW? And then if it's not a good match, how do you let someone go? So that's another life skill that we will work on. We work on foods and cooking, and how do you pick out a healthy meal, and how do you shop well, and how do you budget your money so that you have what you need to pay for that food, and then how do you prepare it? And then also on the job, how can you be as independent as possible? So no matter where our students are on their job site and whatever it is that they're doing, if they're doing inventory, or if they're at Walgreens and they're facing whatever that may be, if they're at Whole Foods and stocking, we want them to be as independent as they can be.
You know, and similarly, we work a great deal on life skills and independence. In our program, we work on cooking. We've actually extended our educational blocks this year. So in one class, the students may work on measurements and mathematical, concepts, and then actually go out to the store, purchase what they need, and then come back and work in the kitchen and prepare a meal and make sure that they're measuring the ingredients appropriately. So we're definitely teaching them how to shop for healthy foods, teaching them how to prepare those foods independently. We also work on banking. A big portion of our mathematical program is really that functional math piece, where they're learning how to make a budget, stick to the budget, write checks, pay bills online, since most young people do that nowadays. But still, there are things that you need to write a check for, and understanding, how you do that, how to keep an online register to understand how much money you have and how you can budget that way. We work on navigating the community, and whether that's community resources that are available to everybody, so parks, libraries, and also, malls, and different places to go and shop, and places that they would use throughout their entire life, how to navigate public transportation. Some of that's very important. I find bus schedules to be very confusing at times. So teaching them how to read a train schedule, how to read a bus schedule, how to know where to be picked up, and navigate that system.
You also both mentioned employability and employment skills. Can you talk a little bit about the skills that you focus on in that arena? And then what types of job coaching and job training is available to the students in your programs?
That's the biggest part of our program. Our goal is to help make the kids as independent as possible. And in order to be independent, you have to be employed or in some type of way or involved in some type of programming. And we do have students who their employment might be independent, it might be supported, and it might be a volunteer-based, kind of opportunity to be involved. We have 2 vocational coordinators that work with our students and our families. And we have partnerships with 15 local businesses right now. We're always looking for more. And then we also have opportunities within our school district. We're lucky to have close to 30 buildings, and so that always provides us opportunity to offer our children a little bit more of a sheltered environment to practice those skills. We also do work training in our building, so working on some of those soft skills, time management, organization, that social interaction piece, getting ready to be the work stamina. That can be very difficult for some of our children. They're not used to standing and being on their feet for hours at a time. And so we partner with these businesses. And in an ideal world, the community is our classroom as much as it possibly can be.
We also work with our students on building resumes, so all of our students will have resumes, and we will continually update their resumes with their volunteer experiences that they do within Connections and within the district and also within the community. We practice the soft skills, interviewing successfully, making eye contact, making sure that when you're in an interview, you also have questions that you want to ask when you have that opportunity to ask questions. And then we also talk about when you're on the job and you encounter a problem, how do you navigate that? So either you're struggling in some way or your boss has a concern, how do you work through that successfully so that you can continue to be successful on that job?
You guys talked about, the skills that we try to work on in those programs and job coaching. What are some other services that we provide students in these programs?
The students who come to us, they bring their individual education plans with them. And so any student who has been receiving a related service in high school can also receive that service in the transition plan. So a big piece of our program is related services. Many of our students struggle with pragmatic language, social skills, social interaction. So we're fortunate to have speech therapists and social workers who can really do explicit instruction in those social skills and in that language, and understanding somebody else's body language, understanding social perception, how you're making somebody feel and the impact that you're having on them, how to communicate your needs and ask when you need help. We also have occupational therapists to help students work on fine motor skills. A lot of our job sites involve some type of typing and data and technology, so continuing to work on that. We have physical therapists in our building as well. And so the whole gamut of related services. If children are entitled to receive those services, they still receive those in the transition program.
We also partner with adult services, and we want to make sure that all of our families are connected to the adult service agencies, that they have as much help as they need to navigate benefits planning, if they need any support from a legal standpoint with developing special need trusts, making those decisions, life decisions for the young adults and their families. We also will partner with the adult service agencies, and we want to make sure that we're supporting our families and finding an agency that's a really good match. So those services will come and join us during our IEP meetings. We will always collaborate and work to make sure that our students can get out and have some trials in those adult placements before they age out of services, because we want it to be very successful. We want the day before they leave us and the day after to be seamless, so there's no surprises. So there's a lot of partnership that takes place with the adult services.
And I'm sure parents are a huge partner and families are a huge partner in supporting the student success in our transition programs. Can you talk a little bit about the opportunities that parents have to be involved with their students, with their children in these programs?
Our parent involvement starts in high school. And it begins when there's a transition meeting towards the end of their high school career. And the parents will get involved. And then one of the best things that I think we've transitioned to at the STEPS program, unlike the traditional parent-teacher conferences that happen in November, we've started moving those to we call a fall transition program, where the whole family can really sit down and get on the same page with What are your post-secondary goals for your student? Are we, as far as independent living, where do you see them living? Do you want, will they be in your home? Are we looking at group homes? As far as education, we have several students who will take classes at COD and then just come to the transition program for some of those, in-depth kind of vocational skills, those interviewing skills, the time management, the organization and executive functioning skills. And so we can really engage them in the whole process of what they foresee their life like for their children as they move forward.
Great.
We also have our parents come in the fall, and we meet with them to find out, along with their young adult, what is their vision for work when they leave Connections. What are they hoping for, either if it's helping the family to create their own micro business, if it's a volunteer experience, or if it's paid employment. And then very similarly, the vision for 22. What do you want that day and that week to look like? With the rec and leisure activities, with any job experiences, time with peers, personal fitness activities, and then where also do you see your young adult living? And so we want to know what that lens is for 21 and 22 and then work backwards. And so the parents are a very critical part of that partnership.
And we spend, like Maura had said, we spend a lot of time with our parents linking them to those resources, that next step for adult services, whether it's working with PACT or Services Inc. to make sure they're on a PUNS list, accessing local special recreation associations. And so, making sure that they understand the process. It can be very overwhelming. And just making sure that they're comfortable with it, they're supported with it, and we can walk them through each step.
I think this is an area where most people have no idea that school districts have students 18 to their 22nd birthday. And it's a really critical role that I think we play in transitioning those students into adulthood. So I want to thank Libby and Maura, and Dan and I would like to thank our guests for joining us on this episode of School Scene and showcasing the opportunities we have for our students from preschool through adulthood. Until next time, I'm Karen Sullivan. Thanks for watching.